Blessings and welcome everyone to Adventures in ecoRelations. My name is Danielea Castell, and I am the host of the Listening Field. It's a space that I discovered in 2020 and during lockdown. And as I'm someone who has been building family relations with water, rock, and tree for the past 14 years. And of course, I would get on plane and get in cars, and I would go in person to meet and communicate with these water, rock, and tree relatives. Well, of course, when lockdown happened, I couldn't do that. And I discovered that the heart bond that I had built, the love and the trust that I had built between myself and these nature elders over the years, made it possible for me to open a ceremonial space that I call the Listening Field, where we and the nature elders that we know and love can meet and communicate. And so, of course, as you've probably already guessed, I discovered that other people can do this too. And that simply based on the love that we have for these beings, they will come and we can communicate heart to heart. So we are here today at the inaugural Adventures of ecoRelations. It's a live interview series that's going to be happening at the end of each month, the last Thursday each month. And in it, I'm choosing to highlight the adventures that people are having with their nature relatives. And I'm extremely excited to have with me here tonight, Grace Kohn. And Grace is a dear, dear friend. We've known each other for, gosh, we're moving into the decade. We have a lot of mutual friends in common, some of whom are on this call. And Grace is a mother, and she is an author, and she's a singer-songwriter. And one of the things to know about Grace is that she is one of the most enthusiastic, see possibility human beings that I've ever known. She's the mother of a 26-year-old autistic woman, young woman, and Grace has, through miracles in motion, she has supported her child and other parents now, from her child being nonverbal to verbal, to learning how to read, to write, to ski, to horseback ride. I mean, it really is a miracle story. And so her book is called Children of Autumn, Autism Here on Purpose. And she also has developed as a theater play, an educational play that's really about supporting the connection between autistic children, their relationship with nature, and the gifts that they are here to share. So Grace is here because she attended one of the listening fields that we had last February, received a message, and it started her on a journey. So welcome, Grace. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
My pleasure, Danielea. Thank you for having me. It's yeah, I'm excited. Inaugural. I got a little apple to celebrate.
That's beautiful. So tell me about your relationship with, just a little bit about your relationship with nature in general, and then your relationship with apple trees before February, before you got that message.
Well, my relationship with nature started very, very young. I grew up in Toronto, and I was fortunate enough to live beside this beautiful 100-acre park called High Park that some of you may know. It was gifted to the city, which was a real gift. Actually, we would, come home from school, drop our bags, and we were in the park and spent most of our after school time there. And I really developed strong connections with trees. And so actually the very first play that I ever wrote was about trees. And so I was also, they kind of connected also the connection with nature, and then the connection with writing and plays and acting and drama and so forth. In relation specific to apple trees, there weren't any apple trees per se in High Park that I'm aware of, but I have very strong connections to apples and apple trees, particularly around my parents, but mostly particularly around my father. And it was something we would do once a year. There was a couple of us that would go out, a couple of families that would go, and we would go apple picking for the day. And I still remember the freedom of climbing through those apple trees. And of course, now I actually have 3 apple trees in my backyard that I saved. So I've done some advocacy for apples. I live in a national park. and they wanted to chop these trees down because they produce fruit, and the bears got, they got into some people's backyards and so forth. And I was literally like, no, you can't, you can't chop these trees down. Like, they're amazing. Like, there's no way. So we still have the 3 apple trees, which is awesome. And yeah, and then yeah, so I really feel like, all the sayings that we learned when we were kids: an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But I go back to this piece about freedom, because for me, being in an apple tree, I was very much like a monkey type child. I love the monkey bars and that type of thing. So being in an apple tree, the perspective for me then, where they were huge, and now I see they're not that big actually, but they were giant. Like, we could, climb, because we were little. We were 7, 8, 9 years old. And so we could climb all the way up, and we were free, and we were above land and like a bird and so forth. So those were my initial memories of apples, apple trees specific.
Yeah, beautiful. In sharing that, you're reminding me, my grandfather had 2 big apple trees in his yard. And of course, we picked those apples, we gathered the ones that fell. And you're right. I mean, I grew up in Ontario. I think you did too. I mean, we definitely had apples and apple trees in our lives.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when you were first telling me that what was happening for you, that you said you had been saving apple seeds for years. Can you say more about that? Why did you start saving apple seeds?
Yeah, I have been saving apple seeds for years. I used to go to a school, or I went to a school many years ago. So we're talking probably 15, 20 years ago. Some of you might know the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? It came out in the 80s. And it was a school that came out of that movie, basically, or that the movie came from the school, actually, I should say. And so the main teacher, his name is Ramtha, and he speaks a lot about nature, actually. And just in one of his conversations, he said, you eat an apple and then there's seeds inside, and then you guys all throw the apples away. And I went, you're right. There's like seeds in there, like seeds that we can grow. Like, again, I'm literally looking at one of my apple trees out the window. And when I think of how I happen to just have one little seed here, how one little teensy tiny apple seed can grow into such, a large tree that's producing, I don't know how many apples, let's say 75 apples, 100 apples. It's pretty wasteful for us to just be chucking these in the garbage. So it was just something, I heard it and it stuck and it clicked, and I went, yeah. And so I just made a habit of, even if I was in my car, I'd keep the core, and then I just, gently take out the seeds and keep them. So I had lots. I still have lots.
That's so great. That's so great. And so tell us, for those of you who are new, so the listening field, I host them monthly on the 6th day of each month. And it's basically a consultation with nature elders. So I never quite know what the question is going to be at the time, but I do as we get closer. And so Grace came to the listening field on February the 6th of this year. So tell us what happened for you during that listening with the nature elders and the message you received.
So, I'm familiar, like danielea said, I've worked with danielea before. So I'm very comfortable being in silence and very open to receiving. So I received some other messages too, particularly around Niagara Falls. I remember very powerful there, and the waters and so forth. And then it was actually kind of near the end of the listening field where I saw this, just a large apple, like in my, I was obviously had my eyes closed, and I just saw this large apple. And I was like, oh, okay, what's with the apple? Like, what do you want me to do with this apple? And so that was the first piece. And then the listening field actually ended. And then I, came into my kitchen. I was just in my office, and I came into my kitchen. I actually had a friend visiting, this lovely woman named Valerie. And, we were talking about her experience, my experience. And then it just kind of hit me like, oh, I have all these seeds that I've been collecting for 20 years, whatever, 15 years. Hey, and then I got the other download that, you should seed them, just seed them. And I just happened to have this prayer. I always have it out. It's a prayer of reconciliation. I just pulled it out by Richard Rudd. I'm not going to read it. If anybody's interested, you can find out from danielea what the actual prayer is about. But basically, I'll just share one little piece that I think is very important, especially for these days and these times. It's directed to Our Lady. So it's directed to the feminine aspect of, obviously not just women, but the feminine in males as well. Our Lady who binds together all things and all beings. And this is the part I think that's very important. We pray for your help to bring together and unite that which appears to be split. And I mean, I don't have to get into it because we all know, there's so much division and so much divisiveness going on right now. The last piece I just want to share here is, and then it also says at the bottom, may all beings be restored to their original purity. And then there's more things. So I'm not gonna, you can reach out to danielea and she'll share the prayer with you if you'd like. But I thought, oh, wow, I'm gonna seed. And I just learned this through a conversation that you can just take paper towel, if anybody's interested, and put seeds in between paper towel and then mist the paper towel, and then they start to sprout. So that little piece of information had come to me through a little community thing that I was at. So I was like, oh, I know how to do that. And then I put the prayer on top of it, right? So I felt like the prayer was seeping into the seeds or seeding the seeds. And then they sprouted. And then we have some friends here in town who have grow lights. So we took them to their grow lights because, of course, we're in Jasper. It's very cold in February. And then they went from there. But then this is probably the biggest piece. Then I got the download. And this is when I then reached out to danielea, because when you get those things that just fill your whole body with this kind of, oh, like it's just, oh my God, this is big. And what it was this is a new story that we're seeding literally around the apple. And the story about the apple, and for those of you who aren't, Christian background, but I was raised in a Christian family, that, this is the problem, is you get this story about this woman named Eve who ate this apple. And because she ate this apple, basically we messed everything up. And it's all the women's fault because she ate this apple. And I was like, oh no. And so this prayer of reconciliation was like, we're changing the story because it's a retarded story, but it does infiltrate, especially a young child who hears that in Sunday school about this woman named Eve who ate this apple. And we just automatically feel, in homeopathy, they call it like we have a miasm, that something's wrong with us because we're stained, we're bad, we're women. And so that became the bigger download, was like, oh my God, we got to seed these apple trees. And not only do we got to seed them, we got to pass them on to the women or the men who are open to enriching their femininity and have them nourish and feed this new storyline.
Beautiful. Let's just take a moment to just really breathe and feel and digest the significance of what Grace has shared. I know for myself, I'm not a Christian, but I just remember that story, and I do know that I took some of it in and took some of it on. Yeah, beautiful. I'm really aware that, I'm remembering myself as a girl child. A lot of my memories are from when I was 9 years old. Some very significant things happened at that age. But I remember the general pervasive feeling and awareness was that girls and women were absolutely less than men. Like it just was I was born in 1958. So we're talking 1967 at that time. And I remember, doing much to disprove all the all the things that they said about girls, but it didn't do me any good. The boys still said the things that they said about girls, regardless of what I could do. But I think this is a really significant thing, because we're talking, how many years later, right? It's certainly still in many of us. I know a lot of our young women are not carrying that story. And they reject that outright and never accepted that it was part of them. And I really admire them for that. And I'm really grateful. And yes, there's echoes of these things that are being cleaned up, I would say, in our consciousness. Yeah, that's beautiful. Martin, I'm going to ask you, we're going to share some images that just show some of what Grace has just shared with us. So yeah, these are the beautiful seeds. This is how they were sitting after you planted them. Yeah. And then here they are. This is under the grow lights. It was some friends of yours, right, that had some grow lights. I love the community part of this. Like how many intersecting lines and people have already happened, right? And they're just, right? That thing about we can't do things alone. And the next one. Aha. So tell us about this.
This is just, they were now coming back, and we were starting to think of where they were going to go. The beautiful painting in the back is a painting a friend of ours did, Marla did, and just gifted me with, and it's a painting of Mary Magdalene. And so she just happens to be there.
Beautiful.
Overseeing.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. I think that's the last one for now. So what happened next?
So then it was really just a process of, where are they going to go? And it's been really fun because they've gone to many different places, and there's one left. And right now it's at the Patch. I call it the Patch. It's this place I've been gardening in Dunster, BC. And I'm curious where that one is going to go. But I have a very good friend who you've met, danielea Jade, in Saskatchewan. And so she took two, and it was a gentleman friend of hers. I believe his name is Martin too, actually, possibly wanted one. And so it's, and they've gone to various different places. So Anne has three up at her amazing, beautiful place, and Sharon has one, and there's some in Dunster, and there's some in Edmonton, and there's some in Cochrane, and there's one next door with this very young girl who's like 2 years old, and she waters her little apple tree every day and talks to it, and she's so into it. And and that was the fun piece too, was the home where they were started, really, like where they were under the grow lights. They have a son who's about 9 years old, Jake, and he was really helping me a lot with them. So he was always checking in on them and stuff like that. So I love, because that's a lot of my work, is working with children and parents. And so I love when children get involved in this as well. So I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So it's just been really fun. And then I was just in Dunster, and I was just visiting with mutual friends of some of ours on the call. And for those of you guys who know Kat was like, oh, I got to show you something, Grace. And so she took me to this beautiful greenhouse that this collective of women have come together and created. And it's just gorgeous. And the theme of greenhouse is beauty. So like you walk in and there's like a little spiral of, I think it's parsley. And then it just, the whole energetic in there is just beautiful. Like it's just beautiful. And in the very center, they have an altar. And so Kat put the apple tree right on the center of the altar. And I was like, oh, this is awesome, because there's women gathering there together. And again, you know, it's about coming together and community and learning from nature and interacting with nature. And yeah, so it's fun. And then a friend of mine who was
Just
part.
Grace, just for a minute, I'm just Martin, we're trying to get the slides up of just what you were speaking of. Not sure what's going.
Use your imagination.
Can you, here we go. Hang on one second.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah.
So this is what you were just speaking of, right? The
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is their altar in their greenhouse. And it's
Yes.
lovely because they take turns with the gardening. Like they are on a schedule. So they don't, you know, this is another piece of it. They're working together in an intelligent way, because gardening is big work. It's very big work. I'm learning to be a farmer. Wow, intense. But what they're doing is smart, because they have, you know, a schedule. One day, one woman goes in and opens the greenhouse, closes the greenhouse. It's next day, somebody else goes in. Next day, somebody else goes in. And same with the weeding. So like they're sharing the load, which is awesome, right?
Beautiful, beautiful. Martin, can you show the slide before that one? Because I think there might be photos from people's yards who are actually on the call. So the one above, there we go. There we go. So was Michael the person you were thinking of that?
Yes, Michael. Sorry. I knew it was with an M. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so people have, taken quite delight in sharing with you where they've put them. And then I think this photo here on the right is this is Anne. This is Anne's yard. Yes.
The one with the ropes, kind of like the real protection there. I love that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah.
So just while we're right in this place, Anne, is there anything that you would like to share about receiving these saplings and planting them in your yard? I'd be happy to have you unmute and share anything with us about, what's your journey been with them? We're just going to unmute you. You need to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, yeah. Hello. It's been so long.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Beautiful. Welcome.
Thank you. So when I first heard Grace,
your sound is cut out again, Anne. I'm not sure.
okay.
Now, when you're close like that, we can hear you. I don't know.
Okay, I'll go closer.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Maybe I'll turn up the volume. Can you hear me better? I don't know if it works that way.
You cut out. So I think you're good. If you're just sort of where you are, it seems to be a good spot.
Okay. So I was interested right at the beginning when Grace talked about these apple trees. I had already decided I wanted to get a few apple trees, like 3 seemed like a good number, for an inspiration I had, which is kind of like to have an apple fence, like to have them I have an idea, and I don't even know if it's practical, but anyway, this seemed to be a fit for me. And then I thought maybe Grace had given them all away. I thought I was too late, but I wasn't too late. Grace still had a few, and just my experience was that the apple trees were really happy to be planted. I have to say that, like, the way there didn't seem to be any kind of like shock in the change. Seemed more like they grew overnight. So I was really pleased that they were so happy to get in the ground. I guess that would be it.
That's really, really beautiful. And Anne, you know, we, for those who are listening, gosh, I just have a strong relationship with Valemount, where you live, where Sharon lives, and certainly have brought my, you know, creative voice work there and some of the nature work there. And I know, Anne, we talked about the tree elders that are in your community, and I know there's a tree elder that I still haven't met yet, but I do know that you have an extremely strong and very intimate connection with the creek that runs through your property. So with water and also with your tree relatives who live on the land that you steward, and you know, your husband is an intimate relationship as well. So yeah, anything else you'd like to just share with us about your relationship with trees? And I can tell that you have this sensitivity to their happiness and what they need. And it's really beautiful to hear people speak about that, to help normalize this kind of awareness.
I think the only thing that I want to say at this point is just my gratitude to you for introducing me to the relationship of myself to water, to the creek that that flows by our house. And that has been, I mean, that has been the easiest commitment to keep, to pass. I usually walk by the creek or walk over the creek because there's a couple of bridges, and thank water like every day. And that's the easiest commitment ever to keep. That's all I want to say. And thank you for sending me on that road.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I would propose that it's easy because of your great love. Your great love for water. This is what I'm seeing over and over, that this love that we have for our nature relatives and our nature elders, it's the key, it's the doorway to everything. You know, this beautiful communication that happens for us individually and as a group in the listening field, it happens simply through the love bond, the heart bond we have. And, you know, I remember way back years ago in 2012, when I first sort of set out on my journey and said, you know, of all the relationships we can repair with Mother Earth, starting with trees and water make the most sense to me. And what I realized when I did my first Bank of Gratitude project was that, you know, we have so many places and forums where we get to talk about what's wrong with water or the state of it or our planet. But we have, at that point, we didn't have any places where we could talk about how much we loved. And that's really what set me on my journey of offering, you know, experiences in the community, safe places where we can talk about this. And the more we talk about it, the more we discover how many of us do have these conversations with these relatives, whether there's words involved but it's some sort of an exchange, it's a bond. And that's why I say it's your great love that makes it easy, because when we love someone or something, they're present with us. They're present with us. And so more and more, as I said, it is simple and it is easy and to remember because of this great love we have for them. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. It's great to see you again and great to see you on Zoom. Beautiful. Thank you. Sharon, have you got something planted? Have you got one of these apple saplings planted in your beautiful garden? You're still beautiful.
I haven't planted it yet. I just got it a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to plant it in a medicine wheel in the center.
Oh, wow.
And Grace mentioned that maybe it would be better to do it in the fall now. So I plan to plant it when we have our autumn equinox. There was another little story about the apple in the spring. Of course, you're talking about seeds, and we were thinking of the apple seed, and when you cut the apple, it's a star. And so we talked about what we were seeding in the spring equinox. And so as everybody came into the center, we cut apples for everybody so that they could see the seed. And we talked about being star seeds and how we're connected to the apple in that way. So I think it's quite neat that Grace and I just didn't connect. I said that I wanted a tree, but you always think, anyways, we hadn't connected for an apple seedling yet. And she asked me if I had one, and I said, oh, you didn't give me one yet. So she brought it out a couple of weeks ago. And so it seems perfect that we talked about the apple seed in March, in the spring equinox, and now we'll plant it in the autumn equinox in the center. And yeah, and I feel really privileged to plant it in that aspect because it will be in community. And it was, the way Grace has donated all these apple trees around, like little Johnny Appleseed, giving these apple plants away to different communities. And that, to me, is so powerful because right now, people are starting to get it, that we are a community, and that that is how we'll get into this new world, is through relationship and community, and our relationship to even to the apple seed. Not even to the apple seed. Everything, is in relationship. And so that awareness is beautiful. And I appreciate Grace for her knowing, and Danielea for your knowing, with bringing nature and the people together to recognize that, to recognize their knowing. And I know the few listening fields that I was able to be on with you, I always came away with some richness and a new relationship that I hadn't had before. And the summer is such a beautiful time to have relationship in our gardens, on our walks. So yeah, you're doing the work. Thank you, Danielea. Thank you, Grace.
Wow, Sharon. So I've been to many of the seasonal ceremonies on Sharon's property. And there are, 20 to 30 people who gather at each turn of the wheel, if you will, of the season. And so to know that the apple sapling is going to be planted in the center of the medicine wheel, wow, that feels extremely significant, especially when we come back to that we're growing a new story, like a new story is emerging. And as some of you know, I'm working a lot with Unity Earth, World Unity Week, Peace Week, etc. So there's many organizations and people who are and more around the world who are working together to create a new story. And yes, certainly the piece that I've been bringing is the invitation to bring the voice and the wisdom of our nature elders to the table, to the consultation table, bring them into our personal lives, into our families, because I believe with every cell in my being that we need their wisdom, we need their perspective, we need their love. We need their perception of that long arc of time that's in their bodies and in their communities in order to actually create something that's new. We need to have that influx. So yeah, I didn't know that is going to be in the center of the medicine wheel. So that's wow. It feels like it's like almost growing, the tree of life, that perspective of the tree of life. And so the apple tree in the center of the tree of life, that's really beautiful. And what a great story. I feel like there's a story growing even amongst that wheel that's going to be carried on. So thank you. I wanted to come back to you, Grace, and just How has this, I've heard you call it the Apple experiment, it's like, how has this Apple experiment changed you or changed any of the relationships that you have with the people who have the saplings, or your relationship with Apple? An apple tree.
I think what it's done is it's just cemented, I'm going to use that word, or strengthened the web of the people that have the trees, because they're communicating as well with me as to what's happening. Some, not all the time, but once in a while I'll get a text about, oh, my husband, whatever, and then he was all worried about the apple tree, and so it's like a being. Well, we know it is a being, and so there's this connection, and this, to me, it's about a web, like the web of the connection is strengthening, and I love that. I got a messenger the other day from a friend of mine who transported a couple of trees down to Edmonton, and she's now back in Norway, and she wants me to send her some seeds, and so I'm like, okay, awesome, so it's who knows where it's going to evolve to. I still have lots of seeds and I still collect them. I just ate an apple the other day, and I put the seed, I had a little napkin and I kept them in there, and now I keep them on my windowsill, and yeah, so we'll see where it goes. But I think it gives me hope, because it's seeded from this prayer of reconciliation as well. Like it came out of the listening field, so connection to you. So, again, like you said, it's that community piece, very important for me as well. Trees, very important today, just synchronistically. I don't know if it's because of we're doing today, but I was down there and this truck came by me, and actually I've never seen one before, and hugging. And I felt sad, like all these trees were logged. And I was, oh, so sorry. Like, it just was this thing. And so then to know that there's other trees being grown, because again, also from a climate awareness, we know we need that woman that actually I told you about that was with me when we were in the listening field when this all came down. She has introduced me to this book that I shared with you, danielea, about this man who was really the first, gentleman that spoke about, or one of the early pioneers that spoke about the importance of trees and how we need to have at least, I think he said 50% of the planet covered with trees. Like we need a lot of trees for the planet to be healthy. And so this is one little project, that's adding to that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I come back to this, one of the things that I hear a lot from people when they first start to, come to the listening field, or if I'm working with them one-on-one, is one of the most common things people say after they've done a sort of a deep listening with a nature elder is this voice in their head. What is this real? Or did I make this up? Did I imagine this, whether they got words or they got a message or a direction. And in some cultures, they'll say it doesn't matter. If you received that's what you received. And I think what for me is significant about your story is the fact that you saw the image of the apple, you were open to what that message meant, and then noticed the synchronicities and things. That's how intuition works, right? A bunch of information sort of converges at once, and then there's just this knowing, I'm meant to seed these apple seeds. So it's this piece about, because I think that we receive messages all the time, right? We talk about it as our inner voice, etc. But I do know that you're someone, and I'm someone too. When I receive a message from a nature elder, I act on it. Like I act on it. I consider this a sacred transmission. and I act on it, and it's changed my life, you know. And as many of you know, so I talk about my first family is a river, a mountain, and a tree, those three relatives. And so I know firsthand what it means to have this kind of intimate relationship, and have the benefit of a wise elder in our life. And what it does require is that we trust their love for us. We trust our love for them, and we trust our intuition and the messages that we get from them. And I think that this, this prayer of reconciliation that Richard Rudd brought forward, this reconciliation of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, is exactly to the point, because it is it's the divine feminine. It's one of the gifts of the divine feminine is our intuition. It is I don't have to know everything about this direction I've been given from, but I can follow it, right? And so I think that by beginning to listen and to follow what our individual guidance is that we are developing and cultivating trust, deep trust and faith that this universe and our earth and world is designed to thrive. And although we've been doing activities and supporting activities that have gone against that, at every moment we can make a new choice, just like you have. Just even in saving those seeds and then doing something with them is a choice to support the thrival of life on earth. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a small act, right? The point is that we do it, that we act on that intuition. And you multiply that by however many billions of people, and all of a sudden you've got new connections and networks and communities, and things are rising and growing, as opposed to the downward spiral with which very much of the old way of doing things, is dying, and it's a downward spiral that doesn't serve life. So this is really on so many levels. And this is the other thing that I find, is that these messages that we receive from our nature elders, they may just be 2 or 3 sentences or 1 sentence, but as we live, it's like the layers of that message start to unfold. And I think that that's true with your story, is that there's so many sort of branches and layers. And it feels like a story we can come back to later, in a year's time, or in 2 years' time, or in 5 years' time, right? What's happening with those apple trees and the people who are connected with those apple trees. So I wanted to take a moment right now and just put us on gallery. And if there was anyone else here who would like to just speak into your relationship with apples and apple tree, Martin is here. He's helping with the Zoom tech, but you're very welcome to speak. And when we have Amira, I think Amira, you might be both Amiras that are there on the screen, but yeah, is there anything that you would like to share, Martin or Amira, about your relationship with the apple tree or apples?
Hi there. Yeah, my name's Amira, and both of those are me. Anyway, I just enjoyed listening to what you have to say. I don't have too much input, but it's a very different conversation for me to attend. But I was curious, so I learned a lot, and I'm thankful that I was able to be present today. So thank you.
Thank you, Amira. And where are you calling in from? Where are you?
I'm calling from Toronto.
Beautiful. And how did you find out about this?
Actually, Grace and I are friends on Facebook, and actually we went to Vanier together. So high school.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so a long-time connection. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
wow. And do you like apples? Do you eat apples?
Actually, apples are one of my favorite fruits, as a matter of fact. And it's interesting you ask that, because I have a bit of an overbite lately, and so I'm going to be getting the Invisalign through the dentist, and one of the main reasons is because I love eating apples, and it's getting trickier. So one of the main things I'm getting that for is to continue eating apples. I love them. I do love them. I just feel healthy when I eat them, and I try to have them regularly. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I really love that.
Yeah, but in terms of seeds, actually, I've noticed just in general that it's difficult to get seeds. So a lot of the produce is missing seeds, and that's quite concerning, actually. So the idea of saving seeds is, I think, is a fabulous idea. I think it's needed. And yeah, so I do have some. I'm not really sure how to store them. I was, speaking to people. Some put them in the freezer. So that's kind of something that I do have an interest in. Yeah.
Grace, do you want to reply to that about the seeds and storage?
What I've done there is literally with the apple seeds, I just kept them. Sorry, I was just leaving Amira a little message there. That I'd send her some seeds. First of all, she wanted. And I'm going to Toronto. And I'm going to Toronto in November, hoping to, so I can maybe bring you even a seedling or two.
Oh my gosh, that's one. I'm excited already, Grace. Thank you. I love that. I love it. Thank you.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We got to get Toronto on the map here. We should start a map and just, Norway's going on, and why not?
That's right.
Start a movement, the apple tree movement. But there are books, Amira. I am a baby. Sharon is actually, and much more gardener pro than me. I am I'm learning every single day. What I did with the apple seeds, I literally just kept them in containers. They dry them. I always dry them. I don't keep them in the fridge or anything like that. I just had them in a dry, cool kind of spot. But there are books, a friend of mine gave me a book on seed storage, because it is important. And we grow sunflowers now. So we've been, caring for seeds of sunflowers. And yeah, it's great to keep. I have acorns. I got a pile of acorns. I got a pail of acorns. So yeah, there's a lot of seeds you can collect for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Grace. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sharon, anything else about seeds you want to mention before we go to Martin?
Am I on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I think saving seeds is very important because our seeds are being tampered with. And so if you can save seeds and get them growing. And I know one thing is when I grow something on my property and grow again the same seed, like my garlic, and keep growing year after year, that garlic creates a home, and it's way better. So if you can save seeds and regrow them on the same land, the land and the seedling create a relationship. And in that relationship, you get better produce if that's what you're looking for, or a better, stronger plant. So that's what I have to say about seeds. And the other thing, I just finished a book. This book, it's called Finding the Mother Tree. Finding the Mother Tree, Discovering the Wisdom of the Forest. It's a stunning book. And if anybody wants some beautiful reading, you probably will enjoy this book.
Thank you, Sharon, for the seeds. And I have to say, I am reading that book right now in the digital version, and I actually find it very difficult. I find it very difficult. Yeah.
Maybe too much from the head for you.
It's a lot. It's a logging perspective. I mean, some of the things that she did in the name of science and research was just really, really difficult. So it is. I don't know where she ends up in terms of her perspective. But yes, I'm committed to finishing the book. So thank you for that. Martin, I wanted to give you an opportunity. Martin has, we just met in June and at the daily listening fields for World Unity Week. And I know he has a strong relationship with the river near him, as well as the trees that live there. And I'm curious if the apple trees have ever been part of your relations with trees.
The only time that apple trees have been a part of my relations is taking my children to orchards nearby. And of course, I don't know if there's a better fruit snack for kids than an apple, period. You know, I always think of it as crispy, crunchy, sweetened water. You know, honestly, just that we all like that crunch in our food. You know, different textures, and that one, it just the way that apples deliver is bar none. And I'm kicking myself right now because I got groceries today and I didn't get any apples, and now you were all just making me like, I need more apples, which is perfect. But the one thing that I wanted to share was something that a message that I got from the last listening field, and that was how much the trees are rooting for us, how much they're behind us, and our efforts to. And that to me still affects me each time I go outside. And, you know, now the waving branches and the waving leaves have a completely different meaning to me. They're like little, hey, go, 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 you know. So I just love it. Thank you for opening that path.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. That's so great. It's one of the things that I enjoy the most about my relations with my nature elders is how playful and fun, really. And, you know, yes, there are all these things that are going on in our planet and all these things that are being done to them. And still, they do not judge us. They love us. One of the things that I want to mention at this before we go to the closing, and that is that at the beginning of this year, I was given a vision to host a ceremony around the summer solstice that was called a partnership ceremony of humans and nature elders. And so we hosted that ceremony on June 18th. There was about 87 people from across the world, and each person had already discovered which water, rock, or tree wanted to partner with them for peace through unity. This was part of a project called 99 Days of Peace Through Unity. So that began June 18th. And following that partnership ceremony, I opened the listening field 7 days in a row. And in those listening fields, we consulted with what are called the 7 foundations of life. This comes from a model called eco-governance that was developed by Dr. Shelley Ostroff. And so we received messages each day in answer to the question, how do we restore a right relationship with water, with earth, with climate, biodiversity, et cetera. And it was on the Biodiversity Day that I remembered that in April of this year, when I moved to this new location in Northern Vancouver Island to be with Mother Ocean for this partnership project, who I also encountered is this family of Sitka spruce trees that live here. They're probably 400 to 500 years of age. They live right on the beach. And I have never, ever, ever seen or met nature elders like these trees before. I do know that Sitka spruce trees are my primary teachers. They are the very first teachers. They are the ones who spoke to me and told me who I am, an interspecies ambassador way back in 2008. But where I'm going with this is that on that Biodiversity Day, the day we were consulting with biodiversity, I got the green light for this tree project that had been given to me when I encountered these elders here. And so this project is in its infant stages, but it's essentially called Honoring Tree Elders Across Mother Earth, Honoring Tree Elders Across Mother Earth. And there's just one invitation, really, and that invitation is to go out to individuals in communities across Mother Earth and just inviting people to build a personal as well as a collective relationship with the tree elders that are in their community. And so, of course, one of the first things that happens is to identify them, find out where they are, because some of them are going to be on private property, some of them are going to be in parks, right? And a tree elder could be maybe not a tree that's old by age, but there might be an elder in their own community or in their own grove. We all know that we walk by trees or we're drawn to certain trees. And when we are, it's because I believe they have medicine. They have something to share with us. And they're calling us. They're calling us. So I'm just wanting to say that we're bringing this project out, and there's an Indigenous elder called Ejna Jean Fleury, and she is partnering with me as vision keeper for this project. And what is really at the core of this for me is an invitation to raise the profile of the elders, the tree elders that live in each community, as life sustainers, as wisdom keepers, as healers, and as advisors. So this is to, as I said, it's to ultimately raise the profile so that everybody in every community knows where the tree elders are, has a personal relationship with them, whatever that looks like for them, and that the wisdom from these tree elders has an opportunity then to come to the humans, to come to the decision-making table, and to be part of, in some cases, the healing of the divides between the people who are living in that community. And so we will be bringing this project out a little more visibly, like launching the project fairly soon. And then on September the 24th, that's that 99th day of peace, 99 days of peace through unity, we are going to be hosting not only a gratitude ceremony for all that's transpired since June, for those of us who've been partnering with nature elders, and then also to commit to this vision of developing relations and raising the profile of the tree elders and communities across Mother Earth. So just really bringing them center into our life and our community. So thank you, everyone. I'm Martin, if you'd be willing to put the screen up, I'll just show you what's coming up next. So I have monthly events that are happening now. And so as I already said, the Listening Field Monthly happens on the 6th day. And Anne, I would love to have you join us if that works at all. That is a Saturday. And then on Tuesday, August 16th, there is a sessions called Messages from the Listening Field. These are the messages that came out of the Listening Field Daily at World Unity Week. And each month we are unpacking those messages, 4 of the messages that came from a different foundation of life. So last month, July was Earth, August is water. And so there's 2 session times. One's in the morning on that Tuesday, one is in the evening. And that evening time allows people in Australia and New Zealand to also participate because it'll be the next day for them. And then the third thing we have is similar to what we did tonight. It's Thursday, August 25th. So the next Adventures in Eco-Relations is with Australian Joan Bowler. She's an elder, and she has a beautiful 30-year story with the ancient red gum tree. And so this is what we have coming up for this month of August. Thank you, Martin. So any last words, Grace? I think you probably already said it, but if there was 1 or 2 takeaways from your experience, what would you like those to be?
Takeaways, like for the people listening, or for the people listening. Oh, definitely to follow your intuition. I mean, like you said earlier, I love that piece about, because you don't know why you're doing it. You know, quite honestly, I'm farming my face off right now, and I don't know why. I mean, other than obviously, hopefully there's going to be food at the end of the day, but it's really hard work. And I'm like, wow, why are you doing this? But I'm being called to do it. I'm being called. So I would say my field has been my experience with my daughter to get me to that place of being present, where I can even hear the call, you know. So having worked with her for so many years took me to that place. And so I would recommend, you know, if people need silence or whatever they need to trust that those messages that they're getting, if they're working with you, coming to your events, you know, and I've been to some of your events where people aren't sure, where they're a little bit, I'm not sure if what I heard, and you're very encouraging about, go with it. You got nothing to lose, you know, and it's fun. It's like when you're a kid, you went on treks, you know, you went over these sand dunes, and you went on treks. You didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know what you were going to find. you just went,
Mm.
and it was
Mm.
fun.
Mm.
And if you got into trouble, or if somebody got hurt or whatever, you helped each other. Like, it was just, you didn't second guess everything, you just did it. So
Beautiful. I really like that reminder because, you know, as we get older, we want security, and we want things to be predictable and that sort of thing. And our world is not like that at all anymore. And you're right. It's coming back so much more to trust. And I think that's also why I wanted to call this adventures in ecoRelations, because like you, I actually like that I don't know what's going to happen. I know that that's not true for everyone, but I think that we are all being invited back into that space of being open to inspiration, being open to new ways of doing things, because our universe is demanding it. Our earth is demanding it. So thank you so very much. I would say that one of the things that I'm taking away is this. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to I compost everything. But I think that, you know, when I eat an apple and I see those darn seeds, I'm going to need, you know, even I thought, you know, even if I didn't plant them, you know, I move around so much, I don't have a permanent home, but I could even make a rattle, you know, like I could make something out of them. I could, you know, that sound could make a nice little rattle or something. So anyways, I think that's what I'm going to be doing is going to be saving the seeds. So thank you, everyone.
Send them to me.
Yes, beautiful. So thank you, everyone. All of those events that I mentioned, just follow me on Facebook. It's called ecoRelations is my page. Danielea Castell is my name, but you will see all of those events on the ecoRelations page. And we also have other ways for us to get together. So please message if there's any other reason that you want to connect. So thank you again, everyone. Have an amazing, amazing day. And what was that you said, Martin? I just loved it. It was like crunch and something and sweet and water. What was it?
Yeah, it was. It's crunchy sweet water.
Yeah, there was one more word. It was really Martin's a poet. Yeah. Did anybody?
Was it cold?
Cold, crunchy, sweet water, something. Anyways, it was perfect.
We'll have to play it back and find it.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Love it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.